Hello ratbags, it's Jade Plays Games with a review. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these guys. I've been sent a bunch of games and I'm finally getting a chance to go through them. This one is called Drifting Lands. It's a side-scrolling first person shoot 'em up. A bit old school like R-Type. That's showing my age, definitely. That game's about 30 years old. We have had some really recent ones that have been really popular like Resogun, and another game I played recently was Luftwaffe. I quite like these. As a throwaway little game to play just for like half an hour, 40 minutes is something I can do every now and then. I'm not going to lie though, I don't play them every week, maybe lucky if I play it once a month. So this little preview review comes from the place of not really being a huge fan of the genre, but I want to give you my initial impressions of the game. It's currently available only on Steam. I don't know if it has any plans to come to console. It's much more than a side-scrolling shooter though, it's definitely got some roleplay elements. You start off by choosing what difficulty you want, forgiving or normal, and then you've got to choose your class of ship. There are 3 different classes to choose from, each with their own unique abilities and design. The gameplay, intro and opening credits, and much like the rest of the story, is in these art pictures. With no real moving cutscenes, it's something you would expect on a small independent new game. One good thing, it does match the actual gameplay aesthetic. The art throughout the game is pretty much universal, whereas some games I've played with things like these have had absolutely no relevance to the actual gameplay themselves. So getting into the meat and potatoes of it is a simple side-scrolling game, but it definitely has a lot of customization, and that's where it's really trying to sell itself. You can really customize your vehicle, your airship. Loads of different things to do. In fact, the level customization can be a bit overwhelming. There's over like 50 or 60 adjustments you can make, whether it's to items that you've got in terms of weapons, shielding, the class of ship you have. You can also make new items, and you can make better items by adding blueprints or deconstructing them. So lots of different options. That what I suppose makes it different and makes it interesting for fans of games like these. It's going to have a lot more depth than you normally find on a shooter. Gameplay wise, it's typical side-scrolling fare. You know, lots of baddies, lots of bullets, avoid them, dodge them, duck them. You've got a limited amount of health not to get killed. Back in the day, in old school ones though, like R-Type, you would get hit once and that was it, you were brown bread. Seems games like these nowadays have added a little bit more easier mode and setting. But there is a mode, like I said, the unforgiving mode, which you don't get a lot of loot. If you crash or you get killed, you lose all your stuff, so it can be punishing if you want it to be. The graphics are fairly good, you know, I like the way the ship moves, I like the overlays. The bosses seemed a little bit artistic-y, and that's okay if you like it. I wasn't a big fan of the backgrounds, I found them quite distracting and off-putting. I couldn't tell which was actually scenery and which was an actual rock coming to get me, but that's just something panicky from me. After each mission, you've got the choice to go back to your actual home base and make loads of adjustments and bank some of the loot that you've picked up. Fully compatible with a controller or a keyboard. Apart from this one moment here where I had some weird glitch where it wouldn't stop spinning, you get to choose what levels you want to do, and you can revisit levels you've previously unlocked. As well as the customization options for your ship, which I'm about to show you in a minute, you've also got some skills and attributes that you can boost and level up. So it really does lend itself to almost like an RPG side-scrolling game. The skills, some of them are passive, some of them you have to activate by pressing the buttons. The passive ones give you the opportunity to either go back to base without any penalty if you get killed, and some of the other passive abilities are pretty good as well. It's just a case of finding which ones suit your style. The attributes will level up certain things, and certain upgrades and certain weapons or parts of your ship won't be able to be used unless you've upgraded some of your attributes. You can also choose to buy stuff, and it costs some money sometimes to do this, and this is where you get your credits from while defeating enemies. A fairly standard UI system. I think that might have been benefited from something a little bit more flow of ease while using the controller. I still had to use the right stick to move that little arrow around, and I maybe would have preferred LB, RB, LT, RT shortcuts. To guide you along, you've got some NPC characters that will snip in with certain bits of info for you, particularly if you're doing the tutorial early on. Trouble is, it's hard to be invested in stuff like this if there's no character voices, and so many independent games that are using things like Unity or even Unreal Engine nowadays don't have the resources to get the voice working. But other developers get around this by making sure that there's something really unique about the story, or the gameplay tells the story itself. In the side-scrolling shoot 'em up, I think it's quite hard to do that. They've tried, and you come back to this base a lot to talk to people, but I think it might have been interesting to see a bit more personality from them. Maybe they could have came with you in their own ship as like a robot companion or something like that, just to make it a little bit more like they were in the game rather than just helping you with your rewards at the end of it. You can unlock different ships and buy upgrades at any time you want from one of these guys, and it just gives you another ability to change and muck around with the gameplay, so you've got more experiences with the different types of ship. The items and parts for your ship that you can buy or unlock or craft have different levels, very much similar to things like Borderlands, where you would find something either rare or super good, and others are more weathered, damaged, etc. So with all that customization, you're definitely going to see differences in the weapons that you're using. So I've got a nice little laser here, which was unique and fun, and I started upgrading some of my abilities too. Once I'd equipped more of my abilities, it became a lot more fun and a lot more interesting depending on what you wanted to use. I've got here a shield ability that gives a little protection for 2 or 3 seconds, and you can only have limited time to use these abilities once you've gained enough points. You can see here this is my slow motion or slow time ability, and that was pretty cool too. And I like these types of things. They can really mix up the gameplay and stop games like these from becoming too repetitive, particularly if you want to master something or get to grips with something like a new ability. One interesting quirk of the game is that at some point during the level it will tell you can actually leave and go back to base, or you can carry on going. This was really what made it a bit more lively. I kept on going and it just got incredibly harder and harder. Obviously you can see some of the mobs here are a little bit harder and they take a few more bits than some of the other ones I've faced earlier on, and we come to a like mini little boss as well that starts firing a bunch of bullets that are just incredibly hard to dodge. For games like these, you've always needed really good twitch reflexes, and you know, something like that, old school game, you'd be dead in 2 seconds. But the abilities really help make everything a little bit easier so that you don't instantly die, and also having a health bar and a shield bar helps with that too. The boss fights that I encountered were pretty tough, and I expect that from a game like this, and it's definitely relying on using your abilities to get through the day. It's going to take something away from people that like the reflex side of games like these. I think there's probably people out there that won't necessarily be buying all these abilities or utilising all these abilities and seeing if they can complete the game a little bit old school style. But you can see it's pretty much almost impossible to avoid taking damage. Who knows, maybe an Iron Man addition to the game. We'd like to see some speed players try and beat the game. That won't be me though, my reflexes are getting dulled as I get older, but it was definitely interesting to take on a boss that fired out so many different types of bullets, and there's just absolutely no way to dodge them unless you use some of your abilities. Like I said earlier, sometimes the background was a little bit hard to discern what was background and what was an actual rock coming for you. I did like these environmental little minefields that had been set up that started triggering off if you went past them. Again, that added something else to the combat, but the actual design of the levels was just a little bit lackluster. There was no difference, there was no unique angle. Maybe doing something like maybe making the screen go up for a portion of the game, maybe doing a 360 and going the other direction. I know these things don't sound like big deals, but for a side scroller, doing something like that is really cool. It's hard not to compare it to a game like Resogun. Resogun had a very unique take on it where it was almost like a circle and you could keep going around and around, and eventually you'd come back to the guys that you'd been fighting previously, and it definitely had a lot more going for it in terms of the level design. At the end of the level you'll get your credits and you can choose to go back to the hangar or the command centre and upgrade your ship or start another mission. Drifting Lands has no co-op as yet, or if they are planning to implement it, it's going to be more just local co-op. There will be no plans for online multiplayer either, unless it's going to be something leaderboard based. The game's only just come out of early access and it's available for $13.99 on the Steam store. So is Drifting Lands worth buying? Well, if you're a side-scrolling fanatic, probably yeah, you want something fresh, and the customization options are really going to give it something fresh for you to do. Even though the levels are procedurally generated and it's meant to offer more replayability, it still felt just a little bit plain and just a little bit samey to me. For non-side-scrolling fans like myself, it's definitely something I could play for 20 minutes, but I couldn't imagine spending £14 on something like this. At tops, maybe a £5, and it's not something I would play every day. It'd just be a throwaway game that I was in the mood to play once a week or so. The art style's good, the combat is okay, the actual level design in terms of the baddies that come and attack you are pretty good, but the actual backgrounds and the actual way the levels pan out is just a little bit samey. So, Drifting Lands gets a 3 out of 5 rat bag score. I'm going to be doing a lot more reviews in the next few weeks. In fact, this week alone I've got 3 or 4 reviews to come for games, or previews at least. If you like this style, if you like me doing reviews or previews, let me know in the comments section any other games that you think could be good that are brand new out. I'm JADEPG. I'll see you rat bags later.